Cardano has been the talk of the town for the past month, and as a potential competitor to Ethereum, I wanted to do a little research on the most recent update, the hard fork that just happened, as well as the upcoming one that will bring smart contracts to Cardano. So without further ado, let's get into it. So very simplified, Cardano is a proof-of-stake blockchain that is essentially trying to be a platform coin, where you're able to run smart contracts on it, run decentralized applications on them, make tokens, etc. Ouroboros is their consensus mechanism, and as I mentioned, it is proof-of-stake, and they call it provably secure. And they also have stake delegation, which I really like. That's what Arc has as well, if you're familiar with that blockchain, where essentially you can go ahead and, instead of staking the coins yourself, making sure that your computer is running at all times, you can just pretty much send your coins, not send it, but pledge your coins to someone else and they can stake it for you, and then you'll also get the rewards for it. So just something there that I kind of wanted to throw out because I didn't know Cardano had that. But secondly, they also have the input-output, essentially, which is the team behind Cardano. It's kind of like what the Ethereum Foundation is to Ethereum, as far as I'm concerned. But the point is that input-output is actually, the CEO of it is Charles Hoskinson, which is the same guy who helped create Ethereum as well. And it's funny, if you're on crypto Twitter, you'll see a bunch of memes about this dude. People, posting up pictures of him with a little cigar in his mouth. To me, that's the funniest one. But again, just a very quick overview of Cardano. If you don't know what Cardano is, I highly recommend you watch a full video on it. Again, this is more of me just talking about the updates going forward and a little bit of overview for people who don't know. But before we do get into the meat and potatoes, I want to be clear. I don't know everything about Cardano, ADA, the whole entire ecosystem. So if I miss something that's very important that you think that I should have included, leave it down below. So people in and out of the Cardano community have been raving about this new, essentially, update that's coming, which is called the Gogeun era. Cardano has different eras in which they implement different features. Like I think the first one was community, second one was decentralization, and this third one is going to be smart contracts. That's what Gogeun is. So as I mentioned, this introduces smart contracts to Cardano, giving anyone the ability to pretty much make decentralized applications on it, like dApps. And I quote, "When complete, this will allow users from technical and non-technical backgrounds to create and execute functional smart contracts on the Cardano network." Really cool. I like the fact that they mentioned that technical and non-technical. From what I saw as well, I was looking somewhere on the forums or Reddit or somewhere, they were mentioning that the Daedalus wallet, or I don't even know how to pronounce that, the wallet that they have, the Web3 wallet, they're going to make it so that you can pretty much go ahead and type in, I guess, the type of parameters you want for a token, and it'll make it for you right away, instead of having to go into the code and, write it yourself, which is really cool. I like that. But something interesting as well is that they're also making what they're called Plutus. So Plutus is, from what I understood, is a smart contract development language, pretty much based off another language called Haskell. But to me, it kind of just sounds like what Solidity is to Ethereum. Solidity is obviously based a little bit off of JavaScript and a couple of other smart contract languages. So it looks like Cardano is also going the same way in terms of they want to make their own native language to the Cardano ecosystem. So to me, from what I've seen so far, and we're going to go into a little bit of the past, I feel like Cardano they're kind of going the route that Ethereum went, that I think most of these other blockchains aren't. These guys are literally just trying to build everything from the ground up instead of taking from Ethereum and trying to bridge everything over. Even though we're about to talk about bridges soon, so I guess I shouldn't say that. But unlike a lot of other blockchain or platform tokens, it doesn't seem like they're really trying to take any shortcuts here, which is very admirable, I will say. And more recently, the Mary hard fork happened, which was on March 2nd, it looks like, which allowed the creation of tokens on Cardano. So like ERC20s are on Ethereum, you'll be able to make tokens on Cardano. So although the Daedalus wallet doesn't give you the ability to make tokens yet, as far as I'm concerned, you do technically have the ability to make tokens on Cardano already if you know how to code. But again, this has been on Ethereum for a while, no shit. But the real thing, again, as I mentioned, is going to be Gogeun, when you're able to start making smart contracts and all that other stuff. And from what I understood, that's going to be coming, I think it was either the second or third quarter of 2021, from what people are saying. And I think a couple of hard forks has to happen before then as well, for this to actually take place. But either way, something I did want to mention actually is the fact that with that Mary hard fork, obviously you're able to make tokens, even though smart contracts aren't out yet. So if you're unfamiliar, on Ethereum, smart contracts are tokens. Like, for you to make a token on Ethereum, you need to have smart contracts. That's what a token is. A token is a smart contract. But it turns out in Cardano, it's very interesting. You don't need a smart contract to make tokens. Again, I'm not exactly sure how the functionality behind it works. Again, I know a little bit of Solidity myself, and I know a little bit about how the Ethereum technical side works. But when I saw that on a Cardano, I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. And that kind of goes to show why they mentioned that you can have technical and non-technical backgrounds for this stuff. Although right now you need to code, from what I understand, to make a token. It looks like that part of the reason maybe they didn't want to have tokens be a smart contract, so that they can bring it out first, get communities involved, maybe have them start, getting people in and sending tokens and stuff like that, all in a way so that it's very easy to do. Because I think I checked the Block Explorer, they had like over 177 tokens out, or maybe it was over 1,077, something like that. But they have a lot of tokens already out for it only being like 2 weeks after they launched it. So it's pretty cool, I think. But in a nutshell, this is what the Cardano community is pretty much like ranting and raving about. Because once this comes out, that's when, in my eyes, Cardano will actually be a potential competitor to Ethereum. Right now, it isn't, because it doesn't do anything other than the ability to make tokens and potentially send them back and forth. Cardano isn't really doing much. But that's why, to me, this year, that's why it seems like it's really like going really, really like nuts. Like I think the other day it passed $1. Like, I think that's what everyone was talking about on crypto YouTube and crypto Twitter, which is really, really cool to see. Obviously, I remember Cardano was just a couple of cents, and I never really kind of knew what it was until doing some research now. But again, I think it's cool. I like the fact that there is going to be not competitors to Ethereum, because to me, it's like, I know I say competitors a lot, but it's kind of the word that people like to see and look at when they're searching YouTube, unfortunately. It's like a buzzword. It's at the end of the day, we're just building the entire crypto space. So although I have a bias towards Ethereum, which is quite obvious, I do like to see Cardano, in this case, making some moves. And again, like I said, I like the fact that they're building from the ground up, not just bridging over from Ethereum. We're going to talk about the bridge in a second, because there is technically some sort of a bridge that they have. But I find it really cool that they're doing their thing. And, they're making the space more decentralized. Because at the end of the day, there can't be one blockchain to rule them all, one platform blockchain to rule them all. There has to be, in my opinion, a couple. It can't just be Ethereum, unfortunately, for some people. So now let's go ahead and compare a little bit here. Nothing crazy, again, just kind of my eyes. Cardano and Polkadot. So because of how parachains work in terms of Polkadot, I think Polkadot will be more flexible than Cardano. However, in my opinion, it'll be more complicated in terms of how it's structured and all that stuff. But it also seems that Polkadot will have more limitations in terms of projects wanting to build on it. Because I was doing some research on Polkadot, and apparently they're only planning on having 100 parachains. Please correct me on that if I'm wrong. Because from what I saw, I was doing some research on the Polkadot.network/launch parachains, and it looked like they're only planning on having 100 of them. To me that says, okay, there's only going to be 100 different tokens on Polkadot, and apparently you have to bid for them. I don't know about that. If I'm wrong, please correct me on that, because if that's the case, then that's horrible, in my opinion. But I don't know. In that case, I think, listen, Polkadot obviously is going to be a little more complicated from the way it's structured. And honestly, the more complicated you make things, the more potential things that can go wrong with them. That's why I like Ethereum and how simple it is. Obviously it's getting more complicated with sharding, and beacon chains and all that stuff. However, Polkadot, to me, it seems like the most complicated blockchain out of them all. And then not even done with it yet, by the way. Although they have smart contracts on the parachains currently, which is all still in testnet, it's still nowhere near, as far as I'm concerned, being done. But meanwhile, it seems like Cardano, or ADA, will implement smart contracts the same way Ethereum has. Again, like I said, with this Gogeun era, it looks like, again, tokens on Cardano, other than those not being smart contracts, there will be smart contracts, the ability to make them within the token itself. So in that sense, I think Cardano kind of wins out versus Polkadot, just because it seems a lot more simpler to use, to be honest with you, and it's a lot more straightforward for people to understand. Because honestly, Cardano, from what I've just the little research that I've done on it, it seems like it's pretty easy to understand, and I like that. You should like that as a person who, in this case, if you have any Cardano, you should like that, because you want the average person to be able to understand what they're investing in, right? Polkadot to me is just like a whole other thing, but it does have a lot of promise as well. Now, talking about Cardano and Ethereum, in terms of comparing the two, I kind of wanted to touch on two things. Number one, the virtual machine. So, as some of you may know, Ethereum has what they call the EVM, the Ethereum Virtual Machine, which essentially is where smart contracts are executed, where all the code is pretty much it's executed. I don't know what a better word for that is, but for the most part, a lot of different blockchains have been able to take the EVM and pretty much implement it in their own. So it's like, yeah, like let's say for example, let's say Avalanche, right? I'm not sure if Avalanche uses the EVM. I think they actually do. I could be wrong. Let's say they do. It's like saying, okay, Avalanche is their own, their own blockchain, their own decentralized blockchain, but all of a sudden, okay, you have the Ethereum virtual machine to execute your smart contracts. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Like it's a little bit of a crutch in my opinion, because it's like, okay, instead of building from the ground up, you guys are kind of just taking from something else, and that is the whole mantra for crypto, right? Open source technology, so we can all build together as a whole. Which again, that's fine. I'm all about that. But like I said, I think it's very admirable that Cardano at least looks like they're trying to do it. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, they also took the EVM, but they're calling it the KEVM, which, as I mentioned, is a way to execute Solidity-based smart contracts on Cardano. So it's pretty much a way to say, okay, if you don't want to code, as far as I'm concerned, in Plutus or Haskell, you just want to code in Solidity, because that's what most smart contract developers know, since most of them have been coding on Ethereum for a while. Then you can just take that code and put it on Cardano and just execute it to, their mainnet or their testnet or whatever. So from what they say, it's more secure and is more performant than the EVM. And the K in the KEVM pretty much means to formally verify software, so the code can be automatically checked for any flaws and can be proven to run exactly as it should. So from understanding what they said there, to me that's them telling us that, okay, there won't be any logic errors in the code. Again, a little more technical here, but not really. When you're coding, there are different types of bugs or errors that you can get. I can honestly forget the first two, which are the most obvious ones. There's bugs where you can visually see before you execute the code that for example, if you're using Remix to actually code, it'll tell you like you can't do this. It'll literally outline it in red and say that you can't put this in the code. Like, it's not going to work. There's a bugs that when you try to execute it, the code will run and then it'll throw you an error, right? Those two types of code, those two types of bugs are obvious because you see them, right? You'll be able to see before you execute a code that you can't execute it. It'll tell you. You'll be able to see the other one because once you execute it, it'll tell you that there's an error. Those two are the easiest types of bugs to fix because they tell you, because you're aware of them. The hardest bug to fix and the most malicious are logic errors. So this is essentially when you run a code, everything looks good, and it's fine. You throw it up as live, and you're good. However, this is where rug pulls come in. This is where kind of rug pulls and exploits happen. The logic errors are essentially exploits. So stuff that you don't realize is an error in the code until it happens or until someone tells you. So these are the biggest problem in the crypto space. And what they're saying is that, as far as I'm concerned, this is what I'm understanding it as. The KEVM is going to prevent logic errors from happening. Again, I'm going to read it again. It said that can automatically check for flaws and can prove to run exactly as it should. I mean, that's great. If that's true, that's awesome. I don't know how that's possible, but if that's the case, then that KEVM is definitely revolutionary, because that'll eliminate any type of exploits that could happen. So to me, if they can get that running perfectly, then hell yes, that sounds beautiful. But again, in terms of these smart contracts and whatnot, there's really nothing to compare since they're not out for Cardano yet. And in terms of, I mentioned it earlier, Remix. So I was looking around for the ability to actually test out code on Cardano. Again, I mentioned Remix because it's essentially an IDE where you can go ahead and type in code and literally execute it to the Ethereum mainnet or any of the testnets. Now, it doesn't look like Cardano has one. I mean, I think I found one, but there was a weird error on the page. It said it was not secure. It looked kind of like a rip-off Remix. I don't know. It looked very weird to me. But this is more of I don't even know what I would call it, but a suggestion maybe that they should have this. I mean, at least they should have they should have a remix for Cardano that they can publicize on their website, so developers know where to go, so they can try to test out the code. Because I had no idea where to go in terms of testing out code and stuff like that. I mean, not like I was gonna test it out. I just wanted to see what current developers use to test run stuff on Cardano. Because if not that, then they have to run their own node. do all that other stuff, and like it's a whole complicated thing. Whereas Remix is just you fire up the website on your computer, and you can go ahead and just type in whatever you want and run your code that way. A lot easier. To me, it's the easier you make things for people, the more likely people are to come back and use your product. In this case, Cardano. That's just my opinion. But at the end of the day, again, I think Cardano is pretty dope in terms of just doing this research and kind of looking more into it. I don't know. I think it's very interesting to me how like the community kind of like comes around these different, like, I'm gonna say it again, Ethereum competitors, just because. I mean, is it because that they don't want to see Ethereum succeed, or is it because it's because they want their bags to pump? I'll be honest with you. I don't think anyone wants to see any other chain not succeed. Because to me, it's like, all right, let's say if Cardano bombs, right, it doesn't work, like that's not good. That means that anyone who had Cardano in the first place, ADA, they're all down. A lot of people are going to probably leave the crypto space that only, let's say, invested in Cardano. And to me, it's just not a good look, Like, that's the one thing I really like about this space, and why I'm making this video as well, is because to me, when any project does good, it's good for the whole space. Whether Cardano does good, whether Ethereum does good, Avalanche, whatever, Polkadot, it's good for everyone because the crypto space is just growing. And to me, we just need more decentralized alternatives to these exchanges, these different applications, because that's Web3, bro. Again, like after I did that video on Web3, it made me realize, we're building not towards a crypto future, but a Web3 future. Crypto just so happens to be like the main thing about it. But I don't know. I think Cardano's dope, just reading off this stuff. I hope that the Gogeun era launch goes well. I'll be keeping my eye on that for sure. And I don't know, let me know down in the comments below. I mean, how do you guys feel about Cardano? I know a lot of you guys have been asking for a video about it. I wasn't going to bother doing a review just because, again, there's so many reviews out there. And like, it just doesn't make sense for me to do it if that already exists. So I'd rather just provide this update. With that being said, comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.